I mean, I oftentimes get this question, and it blows me away. I love to answer it because, you know, I can say truly as a visionary who created it, every year it evolves. But I can tell you when I initially created Raisin in the Sun, it really was an organization to transform spaces. And so I know you're like, well, what does that even mean? And it's like, well, on one end, I'm a storyteller. And on the other end, I'm in the community and I'm looking at my environment. I'm looking at land, buildings, and walls in a totally different way. And so originally in right around 2013, I was over on the east side and I was, in the community. I'm thinking there's a lot of people moving in the community on the east side. There's a lot of changes happening, gentrification and all of these things. How can I set aside, create an organization that helps elevate the culture and the history of the area, and then also through that elevation, understand key people to advocate for and elevate those stories. And so how can I do that? And I'm thinking, even if it's just taking one house and transforming, cutting the yard, repainting the outside of the house, raising a couple $100s to do that, and then elevating the story of the person, I think we can do something like that, right? And so one of the very first projects we did was the Delco project, which Wilhelmina Delco is one of the historians that have a building named after her, but she was a Texas state legislator and she lived around the corner from me, and I ended up raising around $5,000 to kind of go and transform her house in one day. So we got some volunteers and repainted her house, power washed, did her garden for her, put a basketball goal up, and she was in tears that day, but we were able to transform her space and do a before and an after in one day. And so we call that kind of like beautification, if you will. And so I think, well, maybe Raising the Sun could just be that HGTV type of organization, but just on the community side. But it quickly evolved into more of a cultural and arts organization as we started to look at space in a different way. That following year, we started looking at communities on the east side that had litter issues, neglected areas, a lot of times, not just trash in the area, but not really taking care of it. So on 12th and Chacon, we did our first biggest cleanup. We had over 300 volunteers come out. We were taking block by block in about 3-mile area radius from northwest, east, south, picking up trash the whole day. We had business people donating coffee, and we had DJs set out there. We had people with trash pickers and just getting out to the neighborhood, getting people outside, really cleaning up their area and learning about people who were doing it, learning about the history. And so I'm like, oh, wow, in one day we could transform a couple of blocks. So again, that transformation of spaces and trying to understand that. And then later the next year, we started looking at walls. And so we're like, okay, here's a blank wall, probably decrepit, probably got some tags on it. How do we storytell and elevate the community through a transformation of a wall? And so that began our mural arts program, where we started to just walk around the community and understand how we could raise money to paint these murals and elevate the artists as well in that process. And so I used to call it beautification, but I've came to know a lot of the work I'm doing is really placemaking. It's cultural, community, and creative placemaking, where we're looking at space in a different way. Not only are we transforming the space through this work and through this programmatic vision, but we're understanding how to manage spaces, right? And then help elevate creatives like Where Y'all At Though, and Of Color, and other creative organizations to help maintain space and have space to do their thing. So it's quickly evolved into, we manage several lots right now. We've got a lot on 12th Street that has an artist residency, a blue house on it, that we're looking to really turn into like a public art kind of playground for folks practicing on the mural arts initiatives, and young artists that want to be budding artists or muralists. They don't have the chance, they don't have the opportunity to do that. They can take a space like the Blue House or the lot, and they can practice their skills. And so I think for me, Raising in the Sun is constantly evolving in and around the urban landscape with communities, and then also this idea of placemaking, but not so much on the development side, trying to push people out, but more on the cultural, creative, and community side. How can we understand these spaces to be used in a powerful way to elevate community? At the end of the day, I wanted to use what I had at the time, use the experiences that I lived through, the journey I had up until then. Well, now is now, but back then I was coming off of an Olympic career and a track and field career where I was really 100% focused on just being an athlete and traveling and experiencing the world in that way. But I understood I always had that creative gene through my father. He was out of Sunnyside, or Fifth Ward, I'm sorry, in Houston, and he always took me to the cultural events. You know, he was a painter and a sculptor, a wood sculptor, and he could build out stages and paint the local barbershop window, and like he still has an incredible vision and one of the best artists I know. He forgets sometimes, but that's okay. But he was the first one who told me that I could be great and that art was in everything. And art was a tool to make things beautiful and then elevate storytelling in that way. And so for me, I was trying to understand that art or creatives are not what everybody thinks. I think for me, art is, it's got a ever present, I guess, seed in me, right? Understanding that I don't have to necessarily be a painter to be a creative. It's understanding how does canvas look, right? Like canvas doesn't necessarily have to look like a whiteboard. Canvas could look like your community. It could look like land. It could be in your environment. And creating something could be solution based. It could help people. And so I was thinking of raising a son as a way to organize around the idea of people having a pathway to shine their light, to be able to utilize the community and the environment as a canvas to really be in the sun, to be bright, right? To in a very dark situation, right? Like when folks can come to you wanting healing, they can come to you and saying, hey, I'm being displaced. They can come to you and say, hey, I'm unhoused, or they can come to you saying, hey, I'm this young person and I don't think that I have a pathway to do whatever I want. I wanted Raisin in the Sun to be an organization that could provide that pathway or that space or that opportunity to do art, or that opportunity to elevate a community member and thank them for their work in the community. And so at the heart of it, it is about being the light today for a brighter tomorrow. It is about not just Raising the Sun, but it's Tobar in the sun, it's Ever in the sun, it's Aaron in the sun, it's Brandon in the sun. It's really a model to understand that if you have a light, you've got time, you've got a generation, right? You're living in a moment that you have the ability to shine your light or not. Oh, that's a great question. I think for me, being an athlete shaped all of the experiences in terms of where I've traveled. You know, shortly before I retired, I spent a couple of summers in Africa, really immersing myself in other countries like the west coast of Africa, you know, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Benin, and really understanding as I ran the African circuit how blessed I am over in America. I not only connected on the root side to the soil, to the environment, and to the community. I felt like there was a connection there. I just couldn't necessarily identify it, right? But I also was welcomed with love. And I can remember one time I ran in Benin and I was up like maybe 7 or 8 in the morning, and I went out to run and jog and warm up for my later competition. And I remember as I was running and jogging, there were some kids across the street that identified what I was doing, and they started running and jogging with me outside of the fence that I was in. But they were following me, right, and clapping and singing. And I think in that moment, I understood that that's this idea of being the light. In your community where you are and using what you have, it's so powerful, it's so profound. I came out of education, I was teaching for some time, but I understood that a lot of folks who soak up things are our young people. And, you know, I had the ability as an athlete to influence on that level, but I was thinking to myself, you know, how do I take that influence of being an athlete and be a community leader, a community advocate, or a visionary, or creating something that necessarily isn't, shooting the basketball, but it's slam dunking. You know what I mean? Like it's something that I could align with athleticism, and I can be able to get young people inspired in that way, and old people for that matter too. So for me, athletics, through that experience helped me to realize the empowerment and how I could create something like Raising the Sun. And I would say the other thing would be just the discipline day to day, and the idea of manifesting things that early on becomes little small seeds, and nobody might even know about it. They may not believe in it. But if you believe in it, if you see the vision, there is a pathway. There is minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day path to manifesting that dream, and nobody can take that away from you. If you see it, it's happening, right? And so that vision came from athletics. I think it still lives in me today. It's like if I see it, I see greatness. I see it. It's so real that sometimes people can't see it in themselves. And I think for me, it's just bringing that energy and that tenacity and that everyday belief, bringing that energy around me, around the people that are around me, and watching the people around me elevate, and attracting the people that need to elevate, right? I think it's an entire invisible field that I know to be true as an athlete, that I have to believe to be true in the next chapter of my life and what I'm doing now. I'm going to give you a very short one, and you have to understand, obviously, this is more of Raasin in the Sun, which is the nonprofit arm of the brand, Raasin. But I want to talk even beyond Raasin in the Sun and just the work that I'm doing in terms of culture, creativity, art, in an urban environment. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of work downtown as well, and I immediately, once they hired me, I was able to see, man, we need the culture here. Like it is, you've got cultural neighbors that you don't even speak to that are out there trying to do it. You know what I mean? They've got museums and all these different things. And so I immediately got on the ground, got into the parks, identified partners that were already on the ground doing this work downtown. And one of the immediate partners I began to connect with as I was downtown was Mexicarte Museum, and led by visionary and executive director Sylvia Orozco. And we immediately hit it off. I promise, I felt like she was some kind of living legend, like, kind of like MLK, but for the Hispanic community, Mexican community. And she would tell me all these stories about the history of the land we're on right now, even the park in Republic Square, how the park was originally, Mexican park, and that some years ago, along with the Native Americans and the Mexican community would come and gather at that park. And so from there, I began to build that vision of making Fifth Street a heritage corridor, and making it official as a district so that they can open up the funding to be able to sustain the programming. And so this was some years ago. Obviously, she had been working on this even before we had the conversation, but we were able to solidify grants to go in to help fund more festivals and more markets and art to live there, get the council behind us. And a couple of months ago, we were official, and we are now a Fifth Street Heritage District now, which is huge, huge milestone in my career, not only just downtown, but in my career in general, being able to see that come to life after so many people worked so hard for so many years. And I said all that to say because the story comes when there was one point where through this work, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years we've been working on this, I remember calling Sylvia and I said, Sylvia, I'm tired. Yeah, I could cry, bro, but I'm dehydrated. I was like, I'm tired, we get 1, 2, maybe 3 doors shut, and I got people all around me needing support, they need funding, they need space. I don't know. I don't know what I can do. Maybe I could just go back somewhere else. It's too much. And she told me, she said, you know what, Raisin, and this lady is probably in her 60s, maybe 70s. She said, you can be tired, but you cannot quit. Yeah. She was like, take it from me. I'm never quitting. And believe it or not, I'm not even tired because I know my lifeline ahead of me, I don't have time. I have to push in my lifetime to push the bar and pass the baton. So I'm gonna give you a second to be tired, but don't you dare quit. And in that moment, I was thinking to myself, I never quit. I'll never quit on this art. I'll never quit on the creatives. I'll never quit on the idea of culture living and being the highest value of any urban environment. Not the second, not the third, but the highest that runs the ecosystem. We are the reason why people come together. And so for me, it just lit a fire under me when an elder tells me, you're going to be okay. You good. Take your moment but come back the next day because this work is so important to the future generations. Art for All at the core is an initiative, a pilot initiative, okay? I was inspired by a 2.5-year institute at the Philadelphia Mural Arts where they had a program called Color Me Back, where they worked with unhoused and incarcerated individuals to paint the subway system underground. But Art for All is custom to Austin in a way that we've identified a canvas by way of the Austin Central Library parking garage, which is, that we talk about that later. It's very dungeonous down there. It's about 2 to 3 levels, 1 to 2 levels, with an incredible tunnel that kind of takes you through to the first level. But we've identified a canvas where the public can fully access. They have resources and amenities and programming out the world here, in one of the most beautifulest libraries I've ever been in. And I think as I talk here, the B-roll, you can see it going with all the incredible things and how this thing was even built in terms of structure. But the incredible thing about Art for All is that we weren't just assigned and given funding to paint these murals, but the idea is to be solution based. So we've been given the task to paint the murals through storytelling, but the award-winning component of this is to match the artist with an unhoused assistance. So once we bring the unhoused assistants on, and they are working with the artists to paint these incredible murals, we get to pay them same day. And that is what makes it award-winning in terms of the solution-based nature of an initiative and vision like this. In addition to paying the unhoused community as they help us paint the parking garage, we're going to connect them to services. We're going to be able to see a couple of the unhoused creatives come through this program and start to paint murals professionally, right? We get to see what the real impact of art can do. And I'm just really, really happy and proud of the city for giving us this opportunity and allowing the library as a canvas for this pilot. I think the most exciting thing for me is all of the partner stakeholders, creatives, our team, everybody that's going to be able to touch this project and be able to elevate, be impacted in some form or fashion. I feel as though this is something that the city of Austin can be proud of. There's so many people day in, day out that looks at somewhat of a challenge and they have negative feedback or not, or maybe it's just something that they choose not to look at or ignore. But I think every big city here in the U.S. and I think even abroad struggles from the unhoused situations. And so I think this program, what I love about it the most is that it's a pathway for a solution for us. It's something that we can point to and say, hey, that's something successful. We've got a couple of folks that went through this as an unhoused and has come out either better, connected to services, or with a pathway for a career as a professional muralist. How will this affect the future of Austin? I think it's a brilliant question. You come up with that. That's good. That's good. That's a visionary question. I think the work that we're doing is going to set Austin up for a just a city that is rooted, it's rooted in art as a solution. You know what I mean? It's rooted in creativity as a solution. It is a city that takes creativity and the type of work that this is just as important as the technology industry. It is a foundation for us really to build on the actual talent and the organizations on the ground, the companies that are on the ground doing this work, and we see it in a totally different way. And so we have, I wouldn't call it a burden, but we have the task as we work through it the next couple of years to show the model and what that looks like. So I think as a result of us presenting the model, doing the very best we can to make it successful, then we inspire people. We get people to see what it can be, and that will change the minds of the folks in power. That will then empower the city and the residents that surround it, that, hey, you know, there's an opportunity for us to plug in and not only volunteer, but to direct folks to services, direct folks to places where they can not only be helped and receive resources, but they can find careers. And so I think I love it because it's rooted in the arts. And to me, I think my dad put the seed in me. I'm rooted in the arts. And so somebody called me the other day an art advocate. I think that works too. But I believe that we are just as valuable as any other industry in this city. And I think the work that we're doing now will set our city up for success to make that real. Okay, I would like to start with this. I used to be told that I have 3 strikes against me: female, a person of color, and a queer person. And so I think my story is first off to help people understand that I'm a human, right? I'm a human that has an energy that is contagious, it's warm, it's loving, it's a giver's spirit, and it's okay to be around a person that just wants to give, right? Like, I think that can be the standard, right? You know, people are like, what's wrong with her? Like, it's just not true that people just want to create something to give back. It is very much true. And I think my story is about being the greatest giver. And my story is about elevating creativity, culture, and community. My story is about transformation. In the simplest form, my story is about elevating others. And in the process, I'm able to elevate not only myself and my family and my friends, but cities across the world. And it's rooted in the arts. It's rooted. And I'll say one more thing, because this doesn't have to be long, but it's ever evolving. How any human should be in life, it's ever evolving. So what I like to say is that I'm just getting started. There are so many things that are in this vision right here. Like, I don't think it scares people for me to share it. That's why I don't share it all the time. But I do share it with people that I believe in and that I'm comfortable with. But if you understood the vision, you would know this is only the beginning. And so the story will go on. And as you follow the journey, you are a part of the journey.